there. My name is Tina Beliveau, and I am so excited to talk with you today about how to run a digital geographic farm on Facebook. And just to give you a little bit of backstory about me and how I'm using the strategy in my market, which is Baltimore, Maryland, and having a lot of success with it. I have been a real estate agent since 2005. Can't believe I'm coming up on 20 years in the industry. I run a team called the Beliveau Group with EXP, of course. Cumulatively, we have sold over 1,700 units, 400 million in cumulative sales volume. I've been an Icon agent for 2 years in a row, working on my third year of Icon status and my third year at EXP here. Totally love this company. And I have always been an agent that is totally relationship and referral driven. And I'm going to share with you how I've added this additional lead funnel to my business and all the reasons of why I love it, how it's working well for me, and how you can duplicate and replicate this system in your market. And pardon me if you see me looking down at my notes, I want to make sure I remember to tell you all the good stuff. One other thing I just always like to mention, from 2016 to 2019, I spent just over 3 years running a very large real estate franchise in my local market before coming to EXP. And that's where I really fell in love with teaching and coaching agents and taking all of my marketing strategies and boiling them down so other people can use them. I'm a total marketing and technology nerd, so that's kind of where my interest lies. And that's why I love anything that I can do with Facebook, social media in general, and really just tools on the internet where I can really duplicate and scale what I'm doing. So one thing I always say, so we're going to talk about Facebook groups and how they can replace any sort of mail, like direct mail farming that you're doing, or maybe you're not even farming at all through traditional methods, but you just want to apply a digital tactic. So I am a Facebook OG. I got Facebook in college when that was the only way to get it. And I've used it to fuel my business in so many ways over the years. And I think it's so easy to forget that Facebook is still such a powerful tool. You know, there's a lot of social media platforms that are newer, more interesting. Maybe I'm even drawn to spending time on Instagram. But what's funny is I found I still get some of my best results through Facebook because I do have such an established network there. So I'm always looking at how I can continue to tap into that at a higher level. So small backstory, I want to tell you about my farm and how it's working. So back when I've actually been out of the field directly selling homes since 2016. I went into a management position at that point, like I mentioned before. And then ever since then, I've really just been on the back end of my business. I kind of operate as the rainmaker for my team. I generate a lot of leads through my ongoing relationships and systems. So back in 2014, 2015, that was kind of the peak of my, 10-year span out in the field. I was working strictly as a listing agent for my team, and I was focused very heavily on farming and cultivating business in the area that I live in, which is called Lutherville Timonium, which is kind of a fun little mouthful to say. So back then I was doing a lot of different things to expand my reach, specifically in that segment of my market, which is in the Baltimore suburbs. And I added on postcards, and at kind of the peak of everything, we were sending out 5,000 postcards a month to a large swath of addresses in that market area. And it's a very functional strategy. Farming is one of the tried and true methods of real estate lead generation. I'm not against it at all. The things about farming that can be challenging are, number one, mail and anything printed tends to be one of your more expensive lead generation methods. The second thing is, if you want to send quality content out, sometimes in my case, there was time spent on figuring out what the postcards should say. And it wasn't like a set it and forget it kind of system, because I was selling homes in the area and making sure we were featuring them. So it just ended up being more labor intensive. It was a full-on system that required a person to maintain it and really do a whole lot for it. So it was functional for me, but it got to a point where it just didn't make sense to sustain it as my business continued to evolve. And alongside of that, at that time, I was doing so many different things to nurture relationships in the area. I actually launched this Facebook group that I'm going to share with you today all the way back in 2015. It just didn't take off until 6 years later. So that's kind of the punchline of where we're going. But just to give you an idea, originally I created a group and invited everyone that I knew to join the group. And there were about 200 people in it. I did a little bit with the group and then it just sat there for years. And then fast forward to the pandemic of all things. Essentially, what happened is the group just started to organically grow because as the pandemic started, people were just looking to network more online and get in touch with neighbors and all these things. And it was a very slow build at first. And essentially, what happened is the group started growing a little bit in 2020. And then in 2021, I decided to literally like pay attention to the group. Like I didn't even have my notifications on. That's how like out of the the radar screen the group was for me at that time. I turned on my notifications and started to engage organically with people. So I wasn't really curating any kind of content or like making a push to grow it or, get anything out of the group, but I started commenting on posts, asking questions occasionally, and then the group just started growing more and more. Then in 2022, I decided to make it an official like focus for my business. And I'm going to share with you today everything in a very short period of time. I'm going to give you the highlights of what I did to really drive growth through the group. And now in 2023, as of this recording, things are really cooking. So just to give you some statistics, we had 200 members way back in 2015. The group has now broken over 6,000 members as of right now. We are growing at a rate of about 250 members per month, all completely organic. I'm not promoting the group anywhere really. I'm not paying to get, like post out about it. It's all just happening because the group has picked up value with like the Facebook algorithm and it, suggests the group to people who are local and it just keeps growing and growing. And a couple of just interesting facts. That group is most active between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. So kind of a good thing to know about Facebook, at least in my experience, is that most of your best activity is during weekday business hours. So I think that's always something interesting to pay attention to when you're posting and when you're engaging. And we have about 200 posts that get submitted every month. I only approve about 85% of the posts that people submit, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But I'm generating very little of the content. I'm probably generating 4 to 8 of the posts that go out in that group per month, and everything else is coming from the crowdsourced community that we've built in the group. So I'm going to just share with you a little bit of why I love groups and why I've decided to adopt this as like an official lead generation funnel for the Beliveau Group. And the most important reason why is that in 2022, it really started to make us some money. So last year we closed 5 transactions from the group. It was somewhere around 2.5 million in sales volume. Now, depending on your production, that might sound like a life-changing amount of transactions, or it might sound like a drop in the bucket. For my team, it's a little bit more in the category of a drop in the bucket. But what I saw was how scalable that if I were to just apply a few things to that tactic and just take it to the next level and the next level, that it could become a much bigger stream of leads for us. And that's absolutely what's happening. As of right now, we're kind of wrapping up the first quarter of 2023 as of this filming. And we are already on track to match last year's production in the first quarter and grow from there. So I'm hoping that this can be, a $10 million arm for our business, maybe even more of that this year, and then growth from there, which is something that I'm excited about. So that just gives you a sense of some of the potential that you could be tapping into in a Facebook group. And, the reason why I love this strategy is that I've said the word scalable several times. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. It's so scalable and it's something that you can do. And we're all, with EXP, and the beauty of EXP is working virtually. I've really embraced working virtually, joined the company in mid 2020. And I, work in my home office. I also became a mother in 2021. I'm pregnant with my second child right now. So I'm at a phase in my life personally where anything I can do from home is essential. I am past the first and second chapters of my career where I was out networking more and hustling literally like out in the world. And anything that I can do from my computer and just have a really high quality of life and leverage over my time is super, super important to me. So that's why this tool really got my attention, because it was sort of that scalable thing at the right time for me and everything that's going on in my world. Aside from that, aside from saving time and energy and money, because Facebook groups are free, also a great tactic, they're also opt-in. When people join a group, they are choosing to be there. There used to be a time in Facebook where someone could just add you to a group and you would end up being in the group whether you wanted to be there or not. Those days are over. People are in that group because they want to be, because they're interested. And that gives you implicit permission, in my opinion, to start to cultivate a relationship with them. Maybe not to sell to them right away, but to build a relationship where you have the opportunity to sell and to build that know, like, and trust factor that I love to talk about with all things. Social media really gives us that opportunity to build the relationship, our credibility, and then make the sale when it makes sense for them and for you. The other reason I love Facebook groups is you get so many insights and pieces of data. They're like a page, but even richer. You kind of heard me mention my stats at the beginning of how many people are joining a month and how many people are posting and all these different things. And I can pull all those numbers at a moment's notice from my group. The thing that I appreciate the most about the insights, though, is you can see the engagement level of every post so easily, figure out what is getting great engagement, and just duplicate off of that and make your posts more and more successful. So when you post in a group, you can see not only how many views did the post get, you can see who viewed it, which I don't really go that granular, but like it's at that level of insight if you wanted to have it. And then overall engagement levels, you can see what kinds of posts are most popular and just run with that, which is something that I've worked really hard to nurture. So hopefully I've talked you into, at least considering if this is a concept that would be the right thing for you. Generally, people are like, okay, well, what do I do? And I'm like, okay, well, here's the first step. You have to have a strategy, and this needs to align with, it needs to make sense for you and your business. So most agents sell in a specific geographic area. Some of us in EXP build these national teams and all of that, but kind of for the purposes of what I'm teaching, you have the opportunity to niche something geographically and say, okay, I really want to specialize in blank. So that should really be the first question for you to unpack is, where do I want to build this community and how big or small of a group do I want to have? For example, you could build a group for just your neighborhood, which in the case where I live, there's only about 200 households in my neighborhood. So that would be nice, but kind of a limited opportunity. You could also do your entire city. You could do your entire state. You could do a suburb. So I would say, where do you want to be growing your business? Where do you live? What is there something you're already doing that you can combine this with? So have it make sense for you. And I would just encourage you to maybe look for a sweet spot where you're not going after such a tiny market that your group is never going to have very many people in it, and maybe not something so broad that there's no sort of niche of like why people, like there's no hook. So like if you were just going to do, in my case, like living in Baltimore, I think that's a great idea, and I think you could have a lot of success with it. But perhaps you could position it as a certain kind of person, like moms in Baltimore or whatever the case may be. For me, it made sense to go with a little bit more of like a sweet spot strategy with, like a nice big chunk of the suburbs, also with like a great average sale price, a good turnover rate, a lot of kind of variety in the homes that are sold. So there are a lot of reasons why I chose my target area. And that's why it works for me. So once you know the area that you want to focus on, I do recommend just doing a little bit of research. It's easiest, in my opinion, to just sit down at Facebook at like a desktop or laptop computer, open the search bar, and start just searching the keywords that you're planning to use in your group name or the geographic concept, and see what groups already exist. So basically do a little bit of like a competitor analysis. Is anything else out there? Join those groups and have a look around. How big are they? How engaged are they? How spammy are they? AKA, are they like nicely moderated or just full of a bunch of advertisements? And start to figure out, is there like a niche that you could work your way into? Is there a way that you could separate yourself from maybe something similar, but do it better or in your own way? And from there, I recommend you make the final decision of the name for your group and kind of how you're going to position what the group is, who it's for, and then work on your plan for launching it. So don't start a group without doing any searching. That would be like one of the biggest mistakes you could make, in my opinion, of just not really looking around and seeing what else is out there and how you can kind of, do better than a competitor, or really like take a competitor group and have it feed your group. There's so many more things to this. So just to give you some big picture ideas, that's your strategy. You want to set up the group, which is a pretty basic process. I would recommend, if you don't know anything about setting up a Facebook group, just Google it. I'm sure you can find a really great guide about how to do that. And then what it's really all about is feeding your group content and adding information to it that will cause people to engage while they are there, and for people to add their friends, and for them to stay, and for you to continue to have the opportunity to build that relationship with them. So I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to put some slides up here and just give you some examples of my best tried and true content strategies. On this first slide, this is actually just a screenshot of what my group looks like. It's a little bit old. You can see it says 5,400 members. We've recently crested 6,100. But just to give you an idea, the living in blank naming convention is a really great way to name your group if you don't know where to start. That would be my recommendation. And you can just see that I have some featured posts. My rules are pinned to the top. There's a little about section that explains what the group is for. So those would be just some simple core things. Oh, and of course, there's a cover photo. Those would be some simple things for having your group set up from the get-go. From there, what I normally recommend is selecting 3 to 4 content pillars or types of content that resonate the most with you, that you want to be sharing in your group. So I'm going to walk you through some of my best examples for content pillars, and then there's a whole lot more to this. I am going to be teaching a deep dive version of this class for a full hour for the Icon team at eXp University. So you can look into that later. I'm just going to give you the broad strokes to kind of inspire you and have you think about how this could work for you. So my favorite content pillar for a community-driven group is something called Trade Tuesday. This was what I did in 2022 to create a lot of momentum with feeding content to my group, because I don't know about you, but coming up with what you're going to say on social and having to generate new ideas over and over is exhausting. It's not always sustainable. So my Trade Tuesday idea was pretty genius, and then I decided that I was going to template a post. It would go up every Tuesday, and that I would every week crowdsource a different contractor type from everybody in the group. And every week I would say, who's your favorite painter? Who's your favorite house cleaner? Who's your favorite fill in the blank? I had 6 months worth of content just for Trade Tuesday, and it was very simple to do. I made one graphic, I made one sort of body copy, as you can see here. And then every week, all that I changed was the contractor type, like the category. And then at the end of that, I collated all of that into what's called a guide. So you can see on the slide I just moved over to here, you can see that I put them all together. Facebook has a tool called guides where you can basically take separate posts that are all, related in some way and lump them together. And then you've got sort of a standing resource for people that's above and beyond any singular post. So this accomplished so many things at once for me. Number one, up until 2022, the group was branded to me, but I was not doing a lot to promote my team name. So going back to this other slide, what I did was I made sure that it incorporated my logo, my colors, my font. I did have all the posts come from me, the person, instead of my business page, because I feel very strongly on Facebook that people connect better with other people than other business pages. So I bring my brand in a lot, but really push it through myself so that people feel like they're connecting with Tina, the real estate agent, the person who knows the things that they need to get from her. So this would be my number one thing. If you were like, I want to launch a group and I don't want to worry about any content except one thing, I would say you could do Trade Tuesday, and you could do it every Tuesday, every other, one Tuesday a month, whatever you feel like you can stick with. The other thing that's really important to know about this, well, everything with Facebook groups, but specifically the strategy, is Facebook groups, when you own or admin a Facebook group, you can schedule posts out for a full 2 months. So I would sit and schedule all my Trade Tuesday posts for like 20 minutes, and I would book the next 2 months of posts. And then I just put a little note in my calendar to tee up the next set. So I basically created so much content for my group and probably spent an hour total on post scheduling for the entire first 6 months of 2022. And what this did was it got my name in front of everyone every single week. I brought my brand into it. I created value. The post got great reach and engagement. People were thanking me all the time. So if you wanted to just stop watching right now and go do Trade Tuesday, that would be really my top recommendation. And I have one other really great recommendation I'm going to give. I'm just going to show some other quick visuals as well. Every third Saturday, I let people do Small Business Saturday. And I say let people because one of the dangers with a good sized Facebook group like mine is you're going to have a lot of people that want to just come in and promote their business. So I don't allow people to just spam and advertise 24/7. It would make the group so unvaluable. So we just do a Small Business Saturday and everyone can shoot their shot the third Saturday of every month. And that's it. That's another post that I have scheduled to just go on the third Saturday of every month. And then on the first of every month, I do a similar post where I just say, hey, what events are coming up this month in our area? And then people can comment and post on that. So as you can see, I've just created really simple systems to continue to have posts go out where I'm not even being that creative. I'm more just being kind of the center person of creating resources and information for other people. The last thing that I want to leave you with as far as content is doing giveaways. So this was also at the beginning of 2022 where I had a little aha moment and realized that if I started doing contests in my group where I was giving away something people would be interested in, I could start collecting their contact information and get them into my CRM and onto my email list and start marketing to them even more frequently and with better quality than just the Facebook group. So I have done giveaways in the group for as little as items that are worth $20. Anything that's local and like a popular restaurant or store or establishment or bar usually does really, really well. This is one of my favorite success stories up here on the slide. I invested $125. We did it celebrating when we broke the 5,000 member mark. I had, let's see, 236 people get in my database from that one contest. From my very my very strategically engineered contest entry form, I had people let me know if they wanted to buy, sell, or had other real estate questions. We got 8 leads, and one of those leads we took a listing immediately and sold it before the end of the year. People love their crabs in Baltimore, so depending on what your market is, pick something that is beloved, run a giveaway once you've got some people in your group, and then you can grab contact information and then really add people to your funnel and keep marketing to them. One other thing, I always just put a screenshot up here. I go live and do all of my giveaways live. It's always a random drawing. There's this great website, write this down if you're able to, wheelofnames.com. You can just load in all of the people that entered your contest. I always just point my camera to it. It does like a wheel that spins. The winner pops up. And then I congratulate them. And I always show my face. And I always get comments like, oh, it's nice to finally meet you, Tina. And it just helps me continue to build my relationship and my brand with everybody in the group. The last thing I want to leave you with is having lead capture in your membership questions is a really great idea. I recently revamped my questions to be even more strategic. I'm having great success. You can see I really asked them 2 key things. Number 1, do they want to find out the current value of their home? And there is a tool in KV Core where you could put them on a neighborhood update based on their email and their home address that I'm a huge fan of using. So if anyone gives you that information, you can put them right in your CRM with that. And then the second one, are you considering buying or selling a home in the area? You'd be amazed how many people answer that question, yes, all the time. So you'll never find out if you don't ask. So you ask the question, and if they say yes or maybe or anything sort of that's worth following up on, I just PM them right away. I introduce myself. Sometimes I even friend request them to make sure that they see my PM because sometimes it doesn't go into the right inbox. I have a lot more Easter eggs and tips. So I'm going to wrap this up. There's a lot of other things you can do to optimize your group. You can turn on what I've put up here, which is called a member introduction. You can also have like a welcome post that's pinned to the top of the group, just explaining what the mission of the group is. Again, sharing your contact information, calls to action, making sure they know who you are. And then the last thing, it does really help to have rules for your group. One of my big things in our group is that we are not next door. And what I mean by not being next door is we are a positive group. It's not a place to rant. It's not a place to say inappropriate or rude things. We really, and when I say we, my group is so busy that I've recruited 2 volunteer co-admins who moderate all of the posts with and for me, they tend to review about 80% of the posts before I even get to them. They're just bought in because they get so much value from the group themselves. So we've just become really clear that our group is a place for positivity. It's not a free for all. It's not filled with advertising, and people absolutely love it. So I'm going to close right there. I hope you got some value from this. If you're interested in getting my deeper dive course, the easiest way to find out would just be to follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Tina Beliveau. It's just my full name, at Tina Beliveau. And sometimes in my link tree, I have my classes. You'll see it in my stories. But if you want to get more information from me, just shoot me a DM, introduce yourself. We can start a conversation and I can point you to one of my icon classes or one of my resources. As you can see, I'm super passionate about this topic. It's really got a lot of upside for me and my team members. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And thanks again for being with me today and watching this.